What will be some of the perks of Jason Beck's offense? Let's get into it right here on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday. We're back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. Thank you to all of our everydayers who watch or listen to the show every single day. Also, big thank you for making us your first listen. There are perks to the Everydayer Club, which you will hear a little bit more about, but you're going to see it right now, right here in real time on today's show, because we're taking member-generated questions, making them segments. It's a topic each. So first, we're going to go with Jason Beck's offense. Who will benefit from it, most from it, and what do we know about it? Then, what is or more of what should be the mood of the Michigan fan base right now? And then finally, we'll talk a little basketball with this big week that is and coming up. So, all right, let's get into it. This comes courtesy of L Wombat 16. He asked about what to expect with Jason Beck's offense. Now, listen, I have not gone back and rewatched all of Utah. I just have not done it, or New Mexico, right? Because you keep in mind, this last year was his third year as an offensive coordinator. He went from not great first year at Syracuse, then very good year at New Mexico, very good year at Utah. So one of the things that we know about it is 11 personnel. So you're going to see one running back off most of the time, right? Like they can obviously deviate from this, but you're going to see running back, a tight end, and 3 wide receivers most of the time. So that is one thing that we know for sure. Based off of just basically study of the stats and such. It is a balanced offense in terms of production. I didn't look to see in terms of, I guess I could. I think I still have it up here. I'm looking at New Mexico. Let's see. New Mexico 2024. This doesn't tell me that. I'm going to have to look at it this way. I was going to say in terms of attempts and everything of that nature. So yeah, they averaged between 28 and 51 attempts rushing per game at New Mexico. That when I say they, I mean Jason Beck, and I'm just on it right now. This is why we're going with New Mexico here. Generally, it was around between 30 and 49 rushing attempts. So a little bit more run heavy, but there wasn't every game, right? Like you had some Montana State, Auburn, Fresno State. I mean, these are games that they lost, so that explains why. But in wins, they ran more for the most part. Air Force 39, New Mexico State 49, Washington State 49. They tended to run a lot more than they passed. Now, in terms of pass attempts, obviously with games they were behind, they didn't pass they passed a lot more. And others, they didn't maybe so much, but it was kind of the same thing. You're starting to look at Devin Dampier, who, transferred over to Utah. You're looking at, the wins is 28-19, 27 pass attempts. The losses, you're looking at 42, 44, so on and so forth. We could do the same thing going to Utah, but I'm not going to do that because we got other stuff we got to get into. But generally, it's balanced in terms of output. Near or over 500 yards 10 times at Utah in 13 games last year. Near, like when I say near, we're talking like 480 total or whatever. Only once near 300 yards passing this last year, which was against West Virginia. I believe it was 280, but 422 yards rushing versus Colorado, near 400 against another team. And it looked kind of the same at New Mexico as well. So that's interesting. Only under 400 yards once all season total. And it was a clunker against a very good college football playoff Texas Tech. 400 yards, 263 yards. So it was actually under 300, but every other game was over 400 yards. Kind of like, you think, at least with like the Jim Harbaugh of it all, we thought of like 400 to 450 is kind of the sweet spot. Generally, like, yeah, you get there offensively, you're going to win games based off of the defense. 3,400 and 600. Can I speak? I'm speaking. Mind, let me speak. Yes, I'm correcting myself in that sense. Don't ask. 3,462 yards rushing last year. Sorry, it was absurd that I just could not talk all of a sudden. 2 near 1,000-yard rushers, and Devin Dampier was one of them, the quarterback for Utah, 835 yards. He actually he was the leading rusher at New Mexico the year before. They had 2,000-yard rushers. Really only 4 main receiving targets at, this is actually why I came over to the Utah or the New Mexico page. I didn't look at it. It's same thing here. Really only 4 primary receiving targets to go to. Same kind of deal at New Mexico. But you had like the 2 main guys and a couple that are a little bit beneath is kind of where that was. You might expect to see that change a bit. So what do I think is going to happen? I think you can see some changes probably happening just based off the personnel he's got, because I think he's inheriting a better quarterback. He's inheriting better wide receivers. When I say better quarterback, I mean, Devin Dampier was really good. I should say the ceiling is higher for Bryce Underwood than it is Devin Dampier. So maybe considering the running back room, you probably don't need to run Bryce as much as Dampier did. You probably, I would be surprised if we still didn't see about 500 yards for Underwood, but like, man, you got to get all these other guys their touches, right? So I think you're going to see, because you want to try to get Jordan Marshall, Savion Hyder, and Bryson Cusdaw all getting their own thing going. I think you'll see a little bit more passing in terms of, I just think that you're going to see, they've got all of these different guys. And I'm curious to see with Celesi Moa, does he become kind of that 2021 AJ Henning to some degree, just like offensive weapon? Like he's a wide receiver, you run him on end arounds, things of that nature. I'm not sure, but I also don't really know what like this is exactly going to look like. And that's fine, right? Like, well, like, I don't think even if I did sit there and watch every game from the last 3 years of his 3 stops, I still don't think that we would necessarily walk away and say that's what it is. Because it's kind of like what Kyle Whittingham said. This is why I kind of missed his, you will become us, we will not become you, because he also talked about Taylor making everything to the player's talents, right? Like culture wise, you will become us, we will not become you. But in terms of what are we going to run? How are we going to run it? It is a little bit more dependent on the personnel. And I think that's smart because you don't always see that, especially with an older head coach who's like, listen, I've done it my way forever. We've seen just by him bringing Jason Beck into Salt Lake City this last year that he isn't this like stodgy, it's my way or the highway system type of thing. Like culture wise, sure. But in terms of scheme, we've seen some changes there. So I think that is, in and of itself is interesting. All right. We have got more to get to, and we are going to do that here in just a moment. But before we do, and what did I do here? Oh, no, I messed this up. Okay, wait, see. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff. The final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure that you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, this is the game that everyone's been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into bigger storylines, and every snap feels gargantuan. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to final whistle. And guess what? If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season's over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel to get started. Well, that was a false start on my end. False end. I don't know. Not a false start. False end. Regardless, thank you for making Locked On Wolverines your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Wolverines with no interruptions. Here's the thing: the members-only Discord access. Today's show is brought to you by the members of the Discord who have the access. Plus, we're in there answering all kinds of stuff. You're getting some public answers today. This isn't like behind the scenes info here, but you can get that over on the Discord. Just $5 a month or $50 a year. So go to LockedOnWolverines.supercast.com, LockedOnWolverines.supercast.com, or check the link in the show notes to learn more. What is it about Mondays, man? It's like, I mean, yes, I took the weekend completely off writing and podcasting, but it's like, it's like everything's reset every single Monday. Doesn't matter if I'm like, work 14 days straight. If a Monday is in the middle of that or the start of that, I don't know. It's just, I can't read. I can't speak. Anyway. All right. Edwin Simmons asked about NFL, Michigan players and the grades from the games yesterday, but guess what? I saw zero of, I don't really watch the NFL. Like, really, I watch college football. Like, maybe come like NBA playoffs if the Pistons are in it, then yeah, I'll watch that. If the Lions are doing well, I'll watch them. Generally, it's college sports, primarily football. So yesterday I was rewatching Game of Thrones because that's what I felt like doing. But anyway, he also asked about the mood of the Michigan fan base, and I'm going to add Florida Swamp Rat, who's also on the board, the Discord. He had a question as well. We're going to add that about halfway through. So, I don't really necessarily know the full mood of the Michigan fan base right now, probably in part because there's been very little to react to. I mean, there's been a lot to react to, but in a way, there's been little to react to. So I'm going to kind of go with a little bit of what I think it should be. I also have not been on the message boards as much it's because some of the people on the message boards hate me. So I just stopped. It's not really true. I'm being hyperbolic. Before that Twitterer who said I'm a drama queen, which I don't really see or get that. Like, yes, we are dramatic on the show because it's an entertainment show ultimately, but that's part of the charm. I myself am not dramatic, and my reaction to that is I'm going to set myself on fire. Arrested Development. Okay, we're done. The mood of the fan base. I mean, I get it mostly from the Discord. It's cautious optimism, I think. And I think it should be a little bit higher, right? Because it's like I've said this idea, and we talked about this last week. Why should we trust the coaches? Because we've seen them deliver like top 20 type, results, sometimes top 10. Sometimes just outside of the top 10 with like the 44th best roster theoretically in college football. So I think with that should tell you a little bit about what they're capable of, that their track record is. It's kind of like, I've said this, I know like Steve Dace texted me this yesterday as well. It's just this feeling that the adults are in the room. I mean, actually I think Alejandro said that to me as well, after the basketball game or before the basketball game, something like that. Might have been Anthony Broom, might have been both, honestly. But that's like the general feeling everyone, at least on our side, that is like, not met these people necessarily, but has been in at least, around them for a very liminal period. But I think that is generally the feeling that I get is like the adults are back in the room. These guys have a track record of doing more with less, and they've done it in leagues that have a lot of parity. Now, I think the big question is this massive step up in competition. The Big Ten is no joke. Their schedule is no joke. But like, I think if you can get the best out of what Michigan already has, I mean, I would look at the rosters across the Big Ten. What, two are better than Michigan, and both lost to Indiana last year. So, you could look at it and actually, or Oregon lost twice. So I think that you could look at it and say, if they are able to get the most out of what they've got, then like they're going to stand a chance. Like, win all your home games, split those road games, and you're at least going to be in the playoff. And, Michigan has a pretty good home field advantage generally. Now it's going to be difficult. Indiana coming to town, Penn State coming to town. You still got to travel, or Oklahoma coming to town, Iowa coming to town. You still got to travel to Oregon and Ohio State. The two teams that have the best rosters and really good quarterbacks that are returning players happen to be on the road. However, I feel like, Whittingham seems like the type of guy that could erase that. Like we've seen Whittingham go from Utah to Ann Arbor and win twice. So he doesn't seem to have a problem doing the cross country thing. So it'll be interesting to see how he's able to handle like a potential late season. We'll find out for sure tomorrow. Potential late season cross country trip. But I want to get to Florida Rat's question here, Florida Swamp Rat, rather. He said, seems like everything within the program has went silent. You hearing anything from players, coaches, staff, secretaries, custodians, security, or whoever about the new vibe of the program? Let's just say I've talked to one person that matters. And they are like, it's so good. It's so much better. I think they even said the adults are back in the room. And I think that should tell you a lot, but I think it's not going to be any different in terms of what the Harbaugh of it all is. And I'll be curious to see if like people are talking at all, because like it just sounds like Whittingham has the same mentality of like, I ain't going to tell anybody anything. Does it? I mean, it's just a perfect fit if you consider Fort Schembechler of it all. So I don't know. We'll see, but it doesn't sound like we're going to hear a heck of a lot. But I will say this, having talked to one person, they're like, yeah, the adults are back in the room. This is great. I don't remember if he said that or not, but that was at least what I had gotten out of that. All right. We are going to talk a little basketball. We're going to do so here in just a moment. But before we do, this is Mazda's moving the game forward for those who show there's more to the score than what's on screen. Though he was the leading scorer, Yaxel Lendeborg never rested on his laurels, never quit, never gave up, kept grinding against Ohio State, leading the team in scoring, offensive rebounds with 6, rebounds with 9, and he was the engine that kept the Wolverines going against the Buckeyes. He was the difference maker in what ended up being a surprisingly tough game. He reminded us of what it really takes to raise the bar. It's the extra work off the court, dialing in every detail, giving it all that extra fire, that grit, and that I never quit. We put the same passion into every model. Highlights make the reel. What it took to get there makes it count. There's more to Mazda because there's more to you. All right, so I was down there for the Trey Burke game for the where he was honored, which honestly, like just getting to, that was my first time ever even like seeing Trey Burke in person, to my knowledge. But just getting to be there at the press conference. I didn't ask any questions. I don't really like people who cover basketball more aggressively than me. They can ask their questions generally. I'll sit back and I'll take whatever everything else is, right? Because I'm not covering it as hard as others are. But that was between him, John Beilein, who didn't remember me at all, even though I actually did aggressively cover the team from 2015 through his departure in 2019. So that was kind of sad for me a little bit. It was like, oh, he has no idea who I am. But that's fine. That was such a cool way to start the game, even though it wasn't something everyone got to see, that I was like, oh, right, there's a game. Oh, but good on Michigan, because they got everything Ohio State was throwing at them. Ohio State obviously tried to slow down the game as much as possible. And Michigan just wasn't doing a lot. I mean, credit Ohio State for a lot of the defense that they were able to play, but like Michigan was terrible from 3 in this game. Both teams weren't great about holding on to the basketball. Michigan was terrible at free throws, and yet Michigan still managed to win by double digits. So you needed that, especially because like you just could not let my my colleague down to the South, Dave Biddle, and his tweet about Ohio State dodging a bullet with Dusty May going to Michigan. It's still amazing. Couldn't let him win. So, but it gets a lot tougher this week. Dusty May talked today about Nebraska, which is this next game coming up tomorrow evening on Peacock. They're 20-0, right? Like, it's kind of crazy because it was only a couple of years ago that you were thinking like Nebraska ball was like the worst in the entire Big Ten. Even with Fred Hoiberg being the coach, right? Like, oh, they got the Chicago Bulls coach and they're still not great. So it's kind of funny that, you kind of look back at that and say, yeah, okay, now they're supposedly the best. Now they're 12th in KenPom, Michigan second. Did lose that first place to Arizona after the game there. But nonetheless, this and Michigan State coming up here at East Lansing on Friday. Like, they're just going to have to be as good as they possibly can be, right? Like, they can't be turning the ball over like crazy. Defense has to really tighten up. I mean, it's been very good, but like, you just can't have like, it's kind of like one of my colleagues was saying, I don't remember who, so I'm sorry I can't give you credit, but it's just like the other team's best, like the best way for them to win is to basically get one of their bigs that generally can't shoot. And I don't know what Christoph Tilley was doing, for instance, before this game, but like the fact that he had a couple open looks from downtown and had that long range jumper that he was able to make a couple times. I mean, that was killer sometimes, but like that seems to be like the way that teams can come at Michigan is like, oh, we're going to get you by surprise with a guy that normally can't do this and now suddenly can. You think the Maryland game, the Wisconsin game, obviously was just like suddenly guys that just generally couldn't hit anything deep were on fire, hitting everything. So it's going to be a little bit of a different story going into these two games because like these teams know what they are. There's not going to be like this surprise, but they're the two best teams to this point that Michigan will have seen ultimately. So like if I'm going to go to KenPom, which we will, because why not? Michigan State's by far the best team they've seen so far. They're ranked 4th. Illinois, who they've not seen yet, is 5th. Purdue, who they've not seen yet, is 8th. Gonzaga, who they have seen, is 9th. Right? I have that right. They saw Gonzaga, right? I'm not misremembering this. I mean, the season's so long. Yes, that was the 40-point. That's what I thought. Okay. It's just I didn't get to watch those games. Those were on TBS, and I didn't get to see them. So like Gonzaga is the best team they've played. Now, like I said, Nebraska is 12th. You have to start going down the list to find the teams that they've played otherwise. St. John's, who they played in exhibition, 23rd. Auburn's 25th. Villanova, 28th. Like, so like you start going down the list for some of those teams that was like, man, Michigan's just absolutely destroying folks. They lost. They kept it. It was relatively close to 38 Ohio State, and they lost to 40 Wisconsin. So they've played a lot of really good teams, but like the best is yet to come here. And still, like, Michigan's got the second best defense and the 8th best offense, if I'm reading that right. I am. So they're going to have to be able to, like, they're going up against the number 1 defense in Michigan State on Friday. Nebraska is, like, again, it's a decent defense and a decent offense, 22nd offense, 11th defense. Not in the same stratosphere. They come to Ann Arbor. So you just got to take care of business there. Be a little bit more crisp, I think. Don't make as many mistakes. Like, you're going to make mistakes in East Lansing. So it's going to be about like actually being able to shoot the grip off the ball, essentially, just to be able to, like, you've got to be hot. You can't just have all these shooters go cold. And it felt like it was that against Ohio State until Trey McKinney and Elliot Cadeau really started, because like the consistent one was Yax, right? Consistent all the way through. Cadeau didn't really start trying to make shots until, kind of midway through the second half. Trey McKinney was a really good spark. So you just gotta be able to weather storms and all of that. And this is where things are about to get really real, because they've only faced one team of the caliber of Nebraska. And then, you've not seen a team of the caliber of Michigan State. And Duke is right ahead of them. And when does Michigan play Duke? It's pretty quick, coming up pretty quickly, I believe. So it's in February. I know that. Let me see if I can click on that real quick, just because I'm curious. All right, so they've got Nebraska, Michigan State, Penn State, Ohio State again, this time in Columbus, Northwestern. So, I mean, Duke's not for about a month. Okay. But they've got Purdue and then Duke in a 4-day span. So, and then they've got Illinois a week later, less than a week later. So things are going to be nuts kind of going on here. And I don't know if they're going to emerge from this unscathed, which, I mean, you wouldn't normally expect that. It's just that they look so good earlier in the year that you start to think, man, maybe they can go undefeated. Who's going to challenge them? Well, they're going to get some challenges. We're starting to see that more. And it's going to be interesting to see how they respond. All right, that's going to do it for us today. Schedule for Big Ten, I believe, comes out tomorrow. If that's the case, we will react to that and go from there. So thanks for watching for today. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you again soon. Peace.